everyone? Welcome back to the Beef Upfront podcast here on Pick SWAT Media. NFL Big Five games of the week, the Week 11 edition. As I say, I always can't believe we're already this far into the season. I don't like it. Next week, we already have our Thanksgiving game. So, season's flying by just like it always does. It feels like we wait forever and ever and ever throughout the offseason. And then once it gets here, it's gone before you know it. But before we get started into Week 11 and recapping our Week 10, welcome back, Kevin. How are we?
Great. It's always good to be back.
All right. We'll recap week 11 or week 10 real quick. Excuse me. That was a pretty good week by me. I went 10-7. And Kevin, you went 8-9 overall in our picks. So, not the best for me, not the worst. I had a little bit above average. I feel like I've been 9-8 or 8-9 for most of the season. But we did have a historic week. I think it was the first time this season on the show we both hit our best bets and we both hit our upset special. So pat on the back for ourselves in that one. I had under 40.5 in Texans Giants. I think the final score was 24-16. And you had Titans -3 versus the Broncos. They won 17-10. And then upset special, we both hit as well. Our plus money underdog winner. I had Steelers over the Saints at +120. They were 2.5-point dogs at home. They knocked off the Saints there. And then you had the Lions over the Bears +125. They were +3 road favorites in that one. They had to come back and claw their way back and win that one. So props to us, pat on the back, a little 4-0 sweep. Look forward to hitting those bets again this week. But before we get into our best bets and our upset special, we'll run through our Big Five games of the week. As always, we're starting off this week on Thursday night. It feels like the first time we're back on Thursday night in a while. Titans 6-3 at the Packers 4-6, who you pronounced dead last week before the show even started. It looks like they might have some life now. They come into this game favored against these 6-3 Titans. They're a 3-point favorite. Over under 42. Like I said, the 8:15 Thursday Night Football game on Amazon Prime. What are your thoughts on this game, Kev?
So, like you said last week, I did say they're dead, and it's crazy how things can flip in 1 week because I have them winning here. Packers 23, Titans 17. The Packers covering the 3-point spread and the under 42 hidden. The Titans are a very, very tough team, and I would not want to play them. They aren't one of the most talented teams, though, but they always seem ready to go. And Mike Vrabel is a very good coach, in my opinion, and always has his guys ready to compete. But last week, did Aaron Rodgers get his mojo back? I guess we'll see here. I think they will need to continue relying on the rush of the Packers and just running the ball and taking a little bit off Rodgers. And hopefully his receivers can continue to build their confidence off a pretty nice game last week. I think Green Bay turned a little corner and is going to beat the Titans here. I trust Aaron Rodgers way more than Ryan Tannehill, and I think it will come down to them, which QB takes care of the ball better and is able to just make it the couple big throws needed to win the game, because I don't think it's going to be a super high-scoring affair.
Yeah, back to the beginning of what you said in terms of it's crazy how fast things can flip. Like, I could easily talk myself into the Packers, somehow winning out, going 11-6, and going right back to the playoffs. I can talk myself into the Eagles losing their next 5 games after losing their first game. It's such a week-to-week league, and opinions change vastly, I think, in the NFL more than any other sport. That's one of the reasons why I thought the Packers had a shot last week. I picked them to cover that 5-point spread, but I thought it was going to take some heroics to win, and it did. They were down 14 in the fourth quarter. They found their way back. I think they ride that into this week, and they pull off the victory on Thursday Night Football. So I'm going to take Packers 21, Titans 20. So I'll thread the needle with that one, as I've been kind of saying these past few weeks, where I'm not that confident in the Packers. So I'll take the Titans with the +3 there, and then I like the under of 42 or 43 hitting. I'll take 42 there. So, under 42 hitting with my total being 41. But here come the Packers potentially. We wrote them off, beat the Cowboys, gained some confidence, and they might have found that winning formula that I feel like a lot of people have been talking about for most of the season. Feed Aaron Jones, feed Aaron Jones, feed Aaron Jones until you can't anymore, and then work off that. And they unleashed Christian Watson, who seemed like finally had his confidence going. He had that big drop in the Minnesota game at the beginning of the year, but you saw he's had that speed and he has some ability, scoring 3 touchdowns last week. Like we saw last Sunday with the Bucks beating the Seahawks. I think just getting that win, kind of getting the monkey off your back where they got that win over the Rams, that gave the Bucks some confidence. I think the Packers are kind of in that same boat now too. An area of concern for this game is the Titans. In terms of the Packers, the Titans only allow 85 yards per game on the ground, which is the second fewest in the league. If they aren't able to get it going on the ground, will Aaron Rodgers in the passing game be able to kind of carry the load? I'm not sure. The Packers also allow 140 yards per game on the ground, including giving up 120 to Tony Pollard last week, and now they have to face Derrick Henry, where he's going to be carrying the ball at least 20 times. So the numbers are kind of pointing to taking the Titans here, especially as underdogs at plus money. I think you get some good value. So I'm definitely going to thread the needle, but this is just one of those games where it feels like the Packers are going to be riding in confident. A short week and another primetime home game where it feels like they never lose in primetime, at least at Lambeau Field. So I'll take the Packers here, but definitely taking the Titans to cover that +3. And then, like I said, under 42. All right, that's Thursday. We move to Sunday now. The last unbeaten team in the NFL now has their first loss with the Philadelphia Eagles cracking our Big Five games of the week again. We have the Eagles at 8-1 playing at the Colts, who are 4-5-1, coming off the victory under first game head coach Jeff Saturday. Eagles are still 6.5 point favorites here, over under 45, 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS.
I got the Eagles winning a close one, 27, Colts 24. The Colts covering that 6.5 point spread and the over of 45 hidden. My initial reaction after the Birds game last week was it was just a bad game and things didn't go their way. They made a ton of uncharacteristic mistakes, but they had a lot of opportunities to make up for them. The defense also did play a lot better in the second half, which will hopefully continue into this week. But after watching it some more and looking back on it, I think there is a little bit of reason to be concerned, especially about the amount of snaps the defense played. They also now have a few key injuries with Avonte Maddox. Obviously, everyone knows about Jordan Davis and the run issues, and then Dallas Goedert on the offense now. And as we saw against the Commanders, their susceptibility in the run game is a big concern, especially with their upcoming schedule, playing a bunch of just really elite running backs. This week, they're getting Jonathan Taylor, who has not lived up to expectations this year, but I wouldn't want to be the team to allow him to find himself, which hopefully the Eagles aren't this week. I think the Eagles will need an elite game out of Jalen Hurts, and I do trust him to do that, and I think he'll be prepared for the moment. This week is huge for the Eagles for other reasons too, because after their first loss, the Vikings are right on their heels for the number one seed. And then even in the division, you would think having their first loss last week, they'd have a nice lead, but they don't really have a huge lead, and there's not a ton of margin for error with the Cowboys and Giants within striking distance for winning the division. But I think the Eagles are refocusing, come ready to play in Indy here.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts with if the Eagles potentially lose this game and with the Giants hosting the Lions this week, the Eagles and Giants could be tied at the top of the division after this week. I don't know if this is the Philly fan in me, the Eagles kind of negative. Once one thing goes bad, the whole world's falling. But I like the Colts to not just cover this game, but I'm going to take them to win outright at home here. I'm going to take Colts 23, Eagles 20. Colts plus 6.5 and under 45. Before the Eagles lost on Monday night, I thought this game would be the first game they lost this season. Even when the Colts were kind of spiraling, I thought that this was just like a weird game, an AFC team you don't know much about. You only see once every 4 years. It just has one of those kind of you lose some games in the NFL and you just can't help it. It gave me those kind of vibes, and I'm going to continue to believe in that. And I think that the coaching staff change, especially with the emphasis going on the offensive line and the running game with Jeff Saturday coming in, is what the Colts needed. And that's going to allow them to not compete and win the division, but potentially get back in the race for a wild card spot, maybe sneak in at that 6 or 7 seed. And then you never know what happens from there. Eagles were fortunate enough to, throughout that 8-0 start, not really have any major injuries, but now, like you mentioned, Kev, Jordan Davis, Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox, all on IR, facing several weeks out of the lineup. Not a recipe for success if you're Philadelphia. Davis and Maddox's presence were really missed on Monday. Commanders 12 of 21 on third down, ran for 152 yards, and as they continued to show throughout the broadcast, really dominated the time of possession there. I expect the Eagles' defense to continue struggling this week after the Colts ran for 270 yards last week. And it looked like Jonathan Taylor was back. He busted off that long run, and he showed that kind of breakaway speed that he was limited to with his ankle injury for most of the season. And then, like you mentioned, Kev, I'm worried about this Eagles schedule coming up. You have to face Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon duo, Derrick Henry, Saquon. The run defense needs to figure it out and do it quickly. They did bring in Linval Joseph, a former Pro Bowl defensive tackle. He's just like a big run stuffing type of guy. Maybe he's able to kind of make a difference and just clog up some lanes. But this 8-0 start could be forgotten soon if they're not able to figure out this run defense. I think the Colts follow Washington's blueprint in this one, ride that momentum from last week. And Jeff Saturday goes 2-0 as the Eagles drop two in a row. I hope I'm wrong, but give me Colts 23, Eagles 20. Third game of the week, AFC East. I heard today all if the playoffs started right now, all four AFC East teams would be making the playoffs, which is pretty crazy. So, needless to say, this is a big game. Jets 6-3 at Patriots 5-4. Patriots -3 over under 38.5. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS.
So I got the Pats winning a close one, 23, Jets 20. So I have a push on the spread and the over of 38.5 hidden. And like you just said, I had it in my notes here that the season ended right now. All four AFC East teams will be in the playoffs. And the NFC East is three of the four teams right now, with the Commanders being the lone team out right behind the 49ers sneaking in ahead of them. That would be pretty funny if you got all the East teams from the NFC and AFC in the playoffs. But anyway, the Pats at home have a very, very good defense, and we all know about Bill Belichick versus young QBs. I think Zach Wilson struggles in this game, and the Pats create a few turnovers. Since the start of the 2001 season, Belichick is 53 and 5 in home games where the other team is starting a first year or second year QB. Wilson has also struggled against New England in his short career so far, going 0-3 with 7 interceptions and a QB rating of just north of 50. I think the Pats will run the ball and not turn it over, and will rely on their defense for a big win here.
Yeah, the Belichick dominance against young quarterbacks is insane. That's the reason why I'm going to take the Patriots to win here. I'll take them 21-17. Pats -3 under 38.5, barely there. I will never take the Jets over the Patriots until they prove me otherwise. Pats have not lost to the Jets since 2015. I was a sophomore in high school back then. I am now graduated college. So pretty insane there, the streak that the Patriots have over the Jets right now. Belichick hates them from that time that he was briefly the head coach for like a day, whatever happened back then. And he's just dominated them since taking over. He loves to dominate. I know both teams are coming off the bye, but Belichick gets some extra time to prepare. That's always an advantage. He is 15-7 off the bye during the regular season, which is another pretty telltale stat. The Patriots did take down the Jets a few weeks ago, like you said, and I think that they do it again here. Belichick owning the young quarterbacks is just such a formula for success. It's pretty crazy how often they win, like you said, 53-5. So I'm going to take the Patriots. I'll take them to cover and then the under as well. The biggest game of the week in my eyes. This is 6-3 Dallas Cowboys traveling to the 8-1 Vikings, coming off the game of the year where they knocked off the Bills. Cowboys are a 1-point favorite here, over under 47.5, 425 on CBS. This is pretty insane to me how Dallas is a 1-point favorite. I think by the end of the week, though, we could see the Vikings, that line move and the Vikings be the favorite.
So I got the Vikings winning 24, Cowboys 21. The Vikings covering that 1-point spread. The under 47.5 hidden. Like you were saying earlier, I just don't get how the Cowboys are road favorites here against a legit 8-1 team who's coming off a huge comeback upset victory over the AFC Bills, who've been the favorite in the AFC all season long. So I don't really understand that, but maybe because they're just supposed to be America's team. Anyway, the Vikings have found ways to win games this year in close contests, while last week in Green Bay, the Cowboys found a way to lose a game. Justin Jefferson's just playing out of his mind at this point, and I think he's taking the claim as best wide receiver in the league. And Kirk Cousins just trusts him so much, will throw it up to him pretty much no matter what, and for rightful so, he'll probably come down with it. The Cowboys are a very solid team, but they just don't really scare me, and I think Minnesota puts themselves in the elite category of the NFC with a win here.
I'm nervous to take Minnesota with this one with the line. I feel like it's screaming Dallas, and Dallas might win convincingly. But I'm not going to listen to the line. I'm going to pretend I don't hear it. I'm going to take the Vikings here as well, but winning by 4. I'm going to take them 27-23. So Vikings +1 over 47.5. Vegas is just showing no respect to the Vikings and supreme confidence in the Cowboys. I guess you could say maybe that win last week was a fluke, but still, they found a way to come back and win. They had every bounce go their way towards the end. If the Bills would have just kicked the field goal in the red zone on, I believe it was 4th and 3, they would have went up 10, and there was like 3 or 4 minutes left. The game would have been all but over. It would have been a two possession game, but instead they go for it. I'm still not sure as to why. It still would have been a two possession game even if they scored a touchdown, and that allowed the Vikings to come back into it. So take with that what you will, but still a very impressive win. This is a huge game though in the NFC, and if the Eagles lose at one, it's going to be even bigger. It will allow the Cowboys with a victory to be only a game out of the NFC East, and with they still have a game against Philly later on in the season at home. Or if the Vikings win and the Eagles lose, that'll put them in the number one seed in the NFC. So this is definitely the game of the week. This game is going to be neck and neck, I think, and it will come down to one big play in the running game, is my prediction. Kind of which team is able to bust off a long run and make one of those explosive plays. Dallas allowing 143 yards per game on the ground. They were exposed last week against Green Bay. The only loss this season for the Vikings is week 2 against Philadelphia, where Dalvin Cook only ran the ball 6 times for 17 yards. Every other game, he's carried the ball at least 13 times, and he has ran for 75 yards or more, except once. So when you give him a heavy volume of carries, it seems to be working for them, and they're winning. I think the key for the Vikings is to just remain patient with the run, even if Dallas is stuffing them early. Feed Dalvin 15, 20 times. I think a hole's going to eventually open up, and he's going to bust off a long run, just like we saw last week against the Bills, where he had that 80-yard kind of game-changing touchdown run. So I'm going to take Minnesota at home here, and with the Eagles losing, pushing them to the number one overall seed in the NFC as of now. Our final game of the week, we go to Sunday Night Football. Chiefs 7-2 at Chargers 5-4. Chiefs are 7-point favorites over under a 50. 8:20 kickoff Sunday Night Football on NBC.
I got the Chiefs winning 26, Chargers 23. The Chargers covering a 7-point spread. The under a 50 hidden. The Chiefs and Chargers always seem to play close games. 4 of their last 5 matchups have been one-score games, and the one that wasn't a one-score game was actually a Chargers 17-point victory. The Chiefs are a very good team, but it's a different Chiefs team than we've come used to in the past couple of years. They're not always blowing teams out point wise, but watching their game does just seem like they're always in control, even if the scoreboard's not showing they're up like 20, even if they're up like 3 or 3, 7, 10. It just always feels like they're in control of the game, and no one really worries if they're going to end up losing because they most likely won't. Kansas City is 4-5 against the spread this year, so I think the Chargers will keep the scoreboard respectable. Kansas City's just way better than the Chargers, and the Chargers, like always, are injured. And I've never fully bought into Herbert yet, even though he has all the talent in the world. It always just seems like there's something missing. They're not always able to win the big games, and when it looks like they're trending in the right direction and ready to take that leap forward, it seems like they never do. So I'm going with the Chiefs here.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for the Chargers and Herbert. But you kind of they were touching on it if you were watching the Sunday Night Football broadcast last week. Like you said, Kevin, he's got all the talent, but right now, I mean, he's throwing to basically me and you out there. He's got kind of nothing to go for him. And he does make a few insane throws a game where you see it there, but I agree that I'm a sucker for them in terms of I always look at the talent in the roster, but they don't prove it. And the Chiefs are the exact opposite. They're just the model of consistency right now in the NFL. So that's why I'm going to take them here, especially um, with the injuries still on the offensive side of the ball for the Chargers. I think it'll be hard to overcome that. And going on the road to LA isn't even really going on the road. The Chiefs will probably have more fans there. I like them to win 30-24, but that makes the Chargers cover +7 over 50 hits. If they didn't already, the Chiefs, a win here basically puts a stranglehold and a 99% lock on them to win the division. And with the Broncos and Raiders both sucking, the Chargers being at 5-5 after this game losing, that thing will be all but locked up. There might be a few mathematical things that are holding it back from being automatic, but they might be able to clinch it by like the first week of December. I just can't wrap my head around though the Chargers injuries and year after year what they kind of go through. Keenan Allen has had a freaking hamstring injury since week 2. Brian Robinson got shot in the leg and he's back dominating the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Keenan Allen he said his injury got worse on the bye week. I don't even know how that happens. Mike Williams still probably going to be out. They lost two more defensive linemen against the 49ers on Sunday Night Football, and they already had a really bad run defense. They allow 146.8 yards per game. Uh, just I don't know how the medical professionals on the Chargers staff have jobs. It just seems like the players get worse and hurt more when they come there. Everything's pointing to a Chiefs blowout victory, but the Chargers, for some reason, always just find like weird ways to hang around and make games close. Like last week, watching them, they had no business being in that game, but there they were at the end with a shot to win it. I really do like the Chiefs and Isaiah Pacheco potentially to do some damage on the ground this week. Maybe throw a few more new kind of run wrinkles in there against a bad Chargers defensive line right now that's really hurt. The Chargers are still in the hunt, though, for the wild card spot, despite all those injuries, and they know they have some guys coming back over these next few weeks. Their season isn't over, even if they lose this one, fall to 5-5. If they can keep it close, pick up some confidence potentially from this game. It might help them in the stretch run with games still on the schedule against the Cardinals, Raiders, Rams, and Broncos, whose seasons all appear to be going in the opposite direction. So this is a team that still has a chance to maybe be like 9-8 or 10-7, sneak into the playoffs. But I don't see them winning this one. I think they do find a way to cover though, make it a game like always. But the Chiefs find a way to pull it out in the end. So give me Chiefs 30, Chargers 24 here. All right, now we go after our big five games. We go into our best bet upset special where we went 4-0 last week. Let's keep it going, Kev. I'll go under 38.5 here for my best bet in the Rams and Saints. Stafford, it seems like, is going to be back and playing in this one. Recording this on Wednesday. He was a full participant in practice, but now Cooper Kupp is definitely out. He's on IR. And the Rams, even with Kupp and Stafford in the lineup, struggled to move the ball all season with terrible offensive line play. I just don't see them being able to move the ball here. The Saints are always good for a few kind of eye-popping lockdown performances. Like they had that 24-0 shutout on Monday Night Football against the Raiders a few weeks ago. I just think this game has super ugly, like 17-7, 17-10, kind of like that Titans versus Broncos game last week. We don't see much offense at all. Under 38.5 is my best bet this week for the Rams and Saints game.
My best bet is the Giants -3 versus the Lions. I think Saquon can have a field day here against a terrible Lions defense. The Lions are coming off a big win in Chicago, but they're traveling to New Jersey here, and they just have a bunch of defensive issues that I think the Giants can take advantage of.
All right, now we go to the upset special. I'm going to go with the team that I've hated the most on this podcast throughout the 3 years we've been doing it. I'm going to reverse my fortune this game, and I'm going to take the Chicago Bears at plus 135 over the Falcons on the road. They are plus 3 dogs. I'm in on the Bears and Justin Fields now. I know they're only 3-7, but they should be excited, I think, about the future as they continue to add more pieces. Since I guess you'd say unleashing this new offense against the Patriots, where they included a lot of Fields running, opening up the playbook, and not being a boring, conservative, terrible-looking offense, that they've taken off, and they have at least 29 points in each of their last 4 games. Justin Fields over that span is also the best quarterback in fantasy. So this offense is really taken off. The Falcons have only put up 29 points once in a game this year, and that was a few weeks ago against the Panthers. So I think if the Bears are able to put up 30, they should win this game. It sounds weird to say, but I don't see the Falcons putting up with the Bears in a shootout. So I like the Bears to go on the road and pull off an upset here.
I'm taking the Raiders as my upset plus 125 over the Broncos, who are -2.5. I don't trust the Raiders, but I also just can't stand the Broncos offense. They can't score. They can't move the ball. Nothing seems to be working for them. So if the Raiders are even able to figure out how to score a few TDs, I think they can win this game.
All right, well, that'll do it for NFL Big Five games of the week, Week 11. We'll be back next week with our special Thanksgiving episode where we cover all the Thanksgiving games. And then we also wrap in the other big games of the week in that one. But any comments before we head out, Kev?
Go Birds on Sunday. Big game.
All right, that'll do it for Beef Up Front here on Pig Swap Media, and we will talk next week.